Hello and thank you for joining the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozugbakun. Today on the program, Inspector General of Police blames IPOB for attack on Imo State, deploys special investigation team, reinforcement squad to the state as President Buhari condemns attack. National Association of Resident Doctors orders COVID-19 doctors to join strike, threatens 5 million naira fine as judiciary workers begin strike over autonomy. And later on the show, abducted Kaduna students, parents Dia El-Rufai plan talks with bandits. I'll be hanging out with Olabisi Deji Folutile and Paul Dada. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. It's troubling that Nigeria seems to be descending into anarchy. A daring attack on Imo headquarters of the Nigerian Police Force and release of over 1,800 inmates in a correctional center in Owerri came to mind. The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, blames the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, for the attack. He ordered immediate deployment of additional units of police mobile force and other tactical squad to the southeast. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the attack, tagging it an act of terrorism. BC, let's start from the infantry. If we have 1,800 condemned criminals or awaiting trial and even condemned criminal that were cooling off in a prison facility, a correctional center, on the loose right now, added to the problem of banditry and what have you. So it's just like the southeast is like no-go area right now, because if you look at that population, 1,800. When you start counting from 1 to 10 and you get to 1,800 hardened criminals.
It's unfortunate. Unfortunately too, things didn't just get to this point without warning. The case in the southeast, and in fact, the entire country, has been a case of anarchy, so to say, because for some time now, security situation in Nigeria, for anyone that is in this country or even outside, you know that it has not been the best of time for us as a nation. We've had series of attacks on facilities, government facilities, security facilities, you know, and unfortunately nothing has been done to curb this. This latest one is very tragic, and it's something that we should make anybody to be afraid. Having 1,800, over 1,800, because there is even controversy over the exact figure. But we know that we have at least 1,800 inmates let on the loose right now. But you ask yourself, how could this be done? How did this happen? How did we get to this point that you know, where government could attack such a facility, burn down vehicles, did a lot of things, and yet they couldn't, nobody was arrested.
They said they were told that Jesus Christ...
Yes, they said so that Jesus Christ has risen. You are not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
You are supposed to be go out. And I mean, how do we get to a point that government could now take such a charge that our security forces, they overpower them?
Not in a village.
Not in
a town, in the heart of the city.
Exactly, and they are overpowered. No, I just pity the people in the southeast. And remember that even the people have been complaining about this problem of insecurity.
Yes.
And the Ohaneze, you know, the people have said that government should do something urgent about the problem. But it's unfortunate that we are here, we are where we are. We don't even know who the suspects are, who the gunmen are, even though the IG has gone forth to accuse IPOB and the other, the Eastern, which I think is rather too fast. a conclusion to reach.
But people will tell you that it's the IGP. The buck stops on the table. He has
yes, but
intelligence.
I would, you know why I'm saying that? I'm saying that just this yesterday, gunmen attacked police in Taraba. They killed 2 policemen and seized their rifles. So are we saying that IPOB went to Taraba and did this? So we
No, there's been a pattern, Paul. There's been a pattern in the southeast. Right now, like, there's what is happening in Ebonyi State now is so despicable. Now, Abia is trying to take a kind of defensive move, proactive move to declare the curfew. But if you look at the trend before now, it has been a kind of onslaught against uniformed men, especially in the southeast, and not minding somebody saying outside Nigeria, giving instruction that any policeman that you see attack the policeman, start killing them. So there's a pattern in which this thing, and they've scored a major point by going to the police headquarters, by operating very close to the government house.
Yeah, it's very, very sad that's happening. It's official. We have 2 governments in Nigeria. The formal governments at all levels, and then the government set up by kidnappers, bandits, terrorists, and all of that. And this other government is actually holding sway. It's actually holding this government is actually holding sway. You understand? The truth of the matter is that things will continue to be like this, except we are very proactive. But first, let me comment on the haste of is it immediate past IGP now?
No.
No, he has not been. Okay, he has not been. Okay, yeah, he's still there. Okay. Yeah. Okay, the other man has not taken over.
Yes.
Okay, the haste of him. I don't know. Of course, you can say, well, the IGP has, like you said, has information, and I don't want to discountenance that
information that I don't have.
That I don't have.
Security.
But then we also know that from the way the police has been behaving, you have a reason to doubt, sometimes to be very skeptical.
So do you suspect Boko Haram for this?
No, I don't suspect any.
So there's a pattern that's been going on in Orlu. If you check what happened in Orlu, the people that carried out, this thing in Orlu, the IG was just looking at the pattern. And these guys, the way they operate, and not knowing that there's a loud mouth out of this country that is always urging people, attack them, burn everything down, and inciting people on the daily basis.
I am not saying matter of factly that it's not IPOB. I just want us to be very, 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 very careful. You understand? But people are saying that, okay, why did, within 24 hours, why did the IGP...
Okay, the time frame, Nigerians are funny. Exactly. The time frame now is immaterial now to the magnitude of what they perpetrated.
This is why we have to, this is why.
But the bottom line is that some people have been able to hold the state, down on its nails. And
you know why I'm saying this. We have to. Okay. I just want us to be, I just want the police to be very sure he knows what he's doing. If you remember when Wakili was first arrested, police said it had no evidence. Later it came up with a 6-count charge. I know too well how cases go to court and they are thrown out for lack of due diligence. You understand? If it is truly IPOB, I'm not a spokesman for IPOB, and I don't have any sympathy for IPOB. What I expect is that there should be proper investigation. But besides that, you see, we keep having this reactive. Look at the way look at what IGP did. IGP actually went to, he has sent some squads, all of that. That is still a reaction. See, you cannot be doing the same thing the same way and expect a different result all the time.
The guys gathered and they sang before they even carried out the operation.
Yes.
And they took time.
Exactly.
It wasn't something that was done in a hurry. And when you see the pattern, as in the number of cars that was burnt, the number of cars that was burnt, the correctional center, and for you to even open the gates for 1,800 people to come out, this is not a 5-minute job. And that there cannot be a counter response is something that worries me.
That's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about. But again, how can we prevent some of this from happening? By now, I expect, we keep having issues of insecurity in the country, northwest, southwest, everywhere. That even a governor of Zamfara State was already throwing the towel. He said the best way to, the solution to what's insecurity is negotiating. And he even went ahead to say, look, we have 30,000 bandits in how many camps now? I mentioned the number of camps, that the best solution. By now, I expect that we should rethink our security strategy. By now, I expect that there should be a security summit. By now, I expect that we should start thinking of state police. Now, the IGP sent police from elsewhere to Imo State. What about what about the base? The base or the basis of those of the officers that were sent there? We need state police. We need to start rethinking our strategy. We need to call a summit. But now I expect even governors to come together, and say, look, what is the solution to this insecurity? Because insecurity is a very big thing in the country.
No, it's the biggest thing now.
It's the biggest. In fact, in Nigeria now, if we are not talking about kidnapping, we are talking about killing. If we are not talking about killing, we are talking about strike. If we are not talking about strike, we are talking about routine medical checkup abroad. So it's like there is no good news, almost no good news coming out of the country. And we can't, this is not what you can play the ostrich about. You can't play the ostrich about, and you can't just wish it away. It's not going to stop except we do something about it. In fact, it's going to escalate except we do something about it.
So how do you protect the people in that area, BC? Because it's, for me, if I were to be in Imo State now, I don't know the kind of apprehension. And some of them might even attempt to even leave the state to go and operate. The name Correctional Center, it doesn't really work in the right sense in Nigeria. It is, some people will tell you that when they go to prison, that is when they got influenced by other gangs. That's where they became, by the time they came out, it became wilder and, so safety of the people.
Unfortunately, I don't have any solution or any suggestion concerning the safety of the people, because I don't see how they can be saved. You see, safety is not a wish. You can't simply wish safety. It's based on practical measures that are put in place to ensure safety of the citizenry. And as things are now, I do not see any practical steps or measures being taken to ensure the safety of the people in Imo State, not even in Imo State alone, in the entire country. Because as you have rightly said, the fact that it happened in Imo does not mean that these people will be restricted to Imo. They are free, and we don't even know where they are. They can be, you don't even know how many night buses they have joined from Imo to Lagos to the north to any part of Nigeria as we speak. So, issue of safety, it's unfortunate. There is no safety anywhere as it is in Nigeria now. It's like God for us. Everyone for himself, God for us all. That is the situation that we are in. But going forward, I think we need to do something about our security architecture. We need to restructure the police force. We'll be talking about restructuring. We'll be talking about state police all this while. I think this is the right time for us to take a definite decision on this matter, because the federal government does not even have enough policemen to police the entire country. We are aware of that. We are aware of that shortage. So in the midst of this shortage, you are killing policemen. In the midst of this shortage, you are stealing arms, you are stealing ammunition, and we are having all these dangerous weapons in the hands of criminals.
They look for police armory to go and cut away their guns.
Dangerous people are holding onto armories, to weapons, dangerous weapons, and that is not safe for anybody. If we have state police, then the governors will have more control over the security of their states. Right now, you have a situation where a governor does not even know what is going on in his own state. he will have to rely on the federal government. And you know, something happened in Imo. Of course, the governor came out to talk. He kept on pleading with people that if you know anybody that has gone out of the correctional facility, come and report them. Who will do that report? At one's own peril. You know, the state should not shift their responsibility to the citizens. And that is exactly what is happening now. We need to discuss this issue of state police. Let Nigeria restructure its police force. Let governors have more control over the security of their states. Let us employ more people, more personnel to take care of our security needs. That is one of the ways of taking practical measures to solve our problems.
Some people will tell you that ordinarily, if this will happen in another environment, that by now, heads should be rolling. Heads should be rolling.
Exactly.
Talking about whoever is the commissioner of police, talking about whoever is the area commander of the police, talking about any squadron, anybody in charge of that place. Just like this thing is just like Alausa. Going to government house, Alausa,
yeah.
and you know, when if there's a facility there, you can free them, operate there for like 2 hours. You know, RRS headquarters is somewhere here, and that kind of thing, you are able to perpetrate it and go scot-free.
Exactly. See, the problem we have is that we don't have accountability. If I employ you, if I'm a school proprietor and I employ you to teach English, and the students are failing, they keep failing, you should resign, or I send you out. If I appoint you as a coach, of course, we are all familiar with what happens in football. You understand?
Especially Chelsea.
You understand? Chelsea does not waste time.
No, you have to get results.
Exactly, the coach. You have to get results. So
there's a KPI.
Exactly. Which is why I support what she said regarding state police. Of course, if a governor is in charge, he appoints a CP, and the CP is not performing. I appointed you to protect the people and all of that. And this is still happening. It keeps happening.
I'll fire you.
I'll fire you. Maybe somebody else can come. Exactly. Yes. Because look, they say hope is not a method. We cannot keep hope is not a method. We can just sit down and be hoping. It's like someone who he hopes things will be better. You know, he stays at home.
I'm not referring to the governor.
No, I'm just. Oh no, okay. I'm sorry. That's just coincidental. Oh no, sorry. Not a governor. Hope is the manner. So I mean, somebody who sits at home and he says things go better. He doesn't need to work. No job. He just expects that maybe one day somebody will come and give him money. You know, he keeps dreaming. Somebody will come and give me money. Who is the Father Christmas that will give you money? So the point is, we are just living on hope, which is not a method. It's not a method for progress. There must be something pragmatic to do. Heads must roll. Heads must roll when people don't perform. We see it happens in other climes.
The attack of the White House.
I was going to the Capitol.
The Capitol.
I was going to talk about that as if you read my mind. I was talking about that. What happened to that the police chief there? The person had to go because it was a failure of leadership. So what we keep having is failure of leadership at all levels. Failure of leadership at all levels. Even governors, we cannot absorb them. Of course, we know that we know that they are not in charge. But we've seen governors even take proactive actions. We saw what Dr. Kayode Fayemi did, you know, with the. Although I don't know whether that is even being implemented as expected. Which I'm talking about with the herdsmen and all of that. We see You remember what? If you remember when Ayosha was governor of Ekiti State, remember the decisive action he took. So we still need
that law that
exactly. We still need governors taking actions. Then we need governors also synergizing, you know, having a very good relationship with their police commissioner. Lagos has always enjoyed that. Lagos has always enjoyed a robust relationship between governors and police commissioners.
It's funding. It's just funding.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
That's the relationship. Funding.
I agree.
Funding.
I agree.
Funding.
I agree.
So have the security,
buying of patrol vans and all of that.
Just keep investing into this thing.
There must be accountability.
Yesterday, I asked my guests yesterday, and I asked them about the proliferation of arms. Right now, it's worrisome, and we can't even account for what is in the system.
Exactly.
And It's
That's the point, that we have lots of dangerous weapons in the hands of wrong people, and they are getting more and more, and that is even the worry. And it seems nobody is even doing anything to remedy the situation. You don't even know which other facility is due for another attack as we speak. And the fact that this can happen, an operation like this happened for about 2 hours and nobody is caught and nobody has been queried, and the person that is supposed to be queried is even the one that is quickly going to the media to say that to identify the people that are responsible. You know, when I mentioned that, the question is
and he told them to use their rifles against,
and he now said use your rifles against IPOD people.
members, yes.
You know, we cannot afford to do this, because even, okay, you ask yourself, people have been asking, okay, you can easily identify these ones, why can't you easily identify the bandits that have been disturbing the people in the northwest, in the northeast, all this way?
And some people will say they even know where they are.
And exactly, you have not said this, so it's worrisome. It's really, really worrisome. And as it is, except we take decisive steps, I'm afraid this situation may continue unabated, and that will be unfortunate for everybody. In fact, naming them terrorists is not even the issue. We are not even interested in whatever name they are called.
Bringing them to books.
Bringing them to books, arresting them, punishing them, making sure that
government keeps analyzing. See, what we do here is analysis. We are tired of government analyzing the problem.
Honestly.
We are doing enough analysis here.
We want action.
Government keeps analyzing. We want action. Do something. Stop analyzing.
Honestly.
All right. Moving on now. Now, the ongoing strike by resident doctors in Nigeria lingers. Now, doctors in COVID-19 isolation centers have been ordered by the National Association of Resident Doctors to join the industrial action or be prepared to pay 5 million naira fine. Meanwhile, the judiciary workers shut down the Supreme Courts of Nigeria in Abuja, beginning an indefinite nationwide strike. They are demanding financial autonomy for the judicial arm of government. It's 2 strikes too many. Even before I came to the studio now, I gathered that the Association of Polytechnic, I don't know if this is a deliberate way to just ground this government. I don't know, because you guys cannot just be...
Is it the government's...
No, let's talk about the resident doctors.
Yeah.
Yes, they have their grievances, they have everything, but we are talking about COVID-19 here, where we record death, as in people are dying every day. If you go to those isolation centers, and it's not wickedness to say people should be pulled out of those isolation centers and doctors working unless they are going to find their 5 million naira.
Ayo, if you look at it,
yes, we know the system, we know all is not well, we know government has not done enough, this, blah, 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 blah. But where lies whatever you've sworn to, your Hippocratic oaths?
Ayo, let's look at this thing very critically. Even me, there's a conflict between my head and my heart. Okay, my heart tells me, if I want to be very emotional, I will say what you are saying. You understand? I will say what you are saying. And truly, you have a point there. You understand? Truly, you have a point. But my head is telling me this. Look, this is not new. Government keeps signing agreements with these people.
Where is patriotism here?
No, please, hold on. See, you may accuse them. You know, sometimes when you're not in someone's shoes, it's very easy to blame them. I am not actually saying that
they should go on strike. They should continue to go on strike.
I'm not saying that they should continue with the strike. You understand?
Extending it to the doctors to pull out.
Yes, I think what they are trying to do is to make a statement. I think what they are trying to do is to actually make a statement so that the government will know that they are very, very serious.
People will die.
Well, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people have to die. I don't want people to die.
So it's okay to have
you understand? What I'm trying to say is, of course, I may be sounding a bit callous, you know, but it's not something that I actually like to say. But the truth of the matter is, these people are also parents. They are also Nigerians. When we say they should work in the interest of Nigerians, are they not also Nigerians themselves? Now, you make an agreement with them, you don't fulfill. You are owing them, I think the salary arrears, you understand? And all of that. How do you want them also to survive? Okay, maybe you think they should be doing PP. Of course, some of them may be doing PP and all of that. But once you have an agreement with somebody, you cannot renege on it. What I would say is this. It may not be realistic. It may not be, I must concede that it may not be realistic for government to, at this time, meet all of their needs. But the thing is, meet them halfway. And besides, government has the history on every history of honoring. And that's the issue.
Okay. We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangouts. Please stay with us. It's your favorite news, current affairs program on TV as TVC News, reaching you live from Lagos, Nigeria. And we're still looking at the controversy surrounding the resident doctor strike. Olabisi, what do you make of these threats to pull out those in the isolation centers, that's the COVID-19 isolation centers, by the resident doctors?
Well, let's look at the essence, the reason, the meaning of strike to start with. Why do people embark on strike? They embark on strike to communicate their grievances. Now, how do you ensure that your strike is effective? You ensure that your strike is effective when you are able, when people are able to feel your impact. So when you are on strike and people are still not feeling the impact of that strike, it's as if that strike is not effective. I guess for the doctors, they think that since this other set of doctors are still working in the isolation centers, they are still helping to control, deaths and the rest. Therefore, probably government is not actually feeling.
Everybody obese.
I know. I'm coming there. Probably government is not feeling the impact of their strike. Yeah, and that is why they probably ask their members and give it to these doctors. So, even when they embark on strike, sometimes some of their members still do some skeletal works on in emergency cases. Yeah. So, but then for me, it's unfortunate really that we are in a system where our doctors could be going on strike from time to time. Remember that these people still went on strike. I think not quite more than 6 months ago. I think they were still on strike. Less than 6 months ago, they were still on strike. And government reached an agreement with them. And today they are back on strike. The same thing with other people too. I think the question we should be asking ourselves is, why do we have a government that always allows people in critical operations to go on strike before they come to do anything or to grant them their request?
Okay, let me take Wale from Ikorodu. Thank you for joining us, Wale.
Yeah, good evening, Ayo.
Good evening, Wale.
And the other two contributors.
Okay.
Let's be sincere with ourselves. By now, they ought to have sacked the Inspector General of Police, the Commissioner of Police in Imo State, and the rest. Let me tell you, in Nigeria, we have the Department of Criminal Investigation and Intelligence Department of Nigerian Police. What is their duty? Especially those ones in Imo State. And we have a DIG in charge of criminal investigation. What are they doing? Apart from all the intelligence units we have in the Nigerian Army, okay, they've not been able to achieve everything. And we also have a national security advisor.
Okay, thank you, Wale. So you're making a point.
As I was saying, I think we should query the system that allows people to go to the point of going on strike before we can get any meaningful agreements between the labor and the government. But be that as it may, for people that have their relatives, their loved ones in hospitals at this time, it is not a funny thing at all. But I guess this is also one of the reasons why Nigeria is called an underdeveloped country. These are some of the things you see in underdeveloped countries. And it's so funny that this country is spending so much money to even train these medical doctors. Do you know that to train a medical doctor in UK, for instance, I think they pay £25,000 per annum in their medical school. In Nigeria, this federal government offers free education at the federal government level. And at the end of the day, you expect that government that could invest so much money in training its medical personnel should also be alive to its responsibility of keeping these people and making sure that it reaps the benefits of its investment in these doctors. But unfortunately, that is not what is happening. Look at what we have now. Many of these doctors, they have even traveled abroad, offering their services elsewhere, taking care of other citizens. And the few ones we have here, instead of the government to ensure that they stay back and they offer the services that will benefit us, they don't pay them. You see, these doctors are also human beings. Let's be frank with ourselves. They are also Nigerians and they have their own needs too. I don't want to employ somebody and not pay them and expect them to still continue to work. It doesn't work that way. So
I have Olushola from Ibadan. That's Oyo State. Thank you for joining us.
The madam and the gentleman in the studio there.
Thank you.
Good morning, both of you. Now, you see, what is now making it even more interesting now is the visit or the excursion Mr. President has gone to do on medical in the United Kingdom and Saudi Arabia now. You see, our doctors are supposed to be giving serious and honest attention. Why? Because they have been doing good job. So honestly, we'll appreciate it once Mr. President has promised us during the campaign period that our health sector will be improved upon. We want him to do this. Nigerians will appreciate him if he can do only this for us. If at least these people can be well paid, they are well managed, so that our health is wealth, so Nigerians can live in a better society. Thank you. You are doing a very good job, and God bless you all.
thank you.
Thank you. Olushola from Ibadan. So, Paul, let's talk about this. The judicial workers today, from the Supreme Court down to the Lagos, the implication is that there won't be court sessions and a lot of judgments and a lot of cases and everything will suffer the same fate.
Yes. I remember the NBA chairman was appealing to them, the judiciary workers, not to go on strike. He said he understood the NBA president, that he understood their plight, he understood what they were fighting for and all of that. But again, it's not new. This is not the first time JUSON will be going on strike. And in fact, what they are not asking for too much. In fact, they are actually asking for an implementation of a court judgment, a judgment which was delivered by a federal court in 2014, I think, that, based on what is already in the Constitution. Don't also forget that President Buhari signed an executive order saying that there must be what? Financial autonomy for the judiciary, that heads of courts don't have to be going to the executive arm to cap in hand to beg for their funds.
Should be truly independent.
Should be truly independent, and it's good for our democracy. It's, you know, a governor, a judge, a chief judge of a state doesn't have to be at the mercy of the whims and caprices of a governor. If the governor decides to starve a judiciary of fund, maybe because he doesn't like the face of the chief judge or something, he can do it. He can, the same way they do to local government, what they have been doing to the local governments. You see, the thing is, it's very simple. What I just wonder, and you also know that even governors went to court to challenge that. Whose interest? What is so difficult about some of these things? So now the courts will be grounded. Now we'll blame the workers. We'll say, look, people have cases in court, justice, people are not getting judgment, are not getting justice. We keep blaming the striking workers. But we are not blaming the authorities that allow these things to happen. There are certain professionals, there are certain critical sectors of our national life that we should not be having strike. Example is doctors, even lecturers, teachers, and this. Why do we keep allowing this to fester? Now again, they will call them, they will beg them, they will sign probably agreements, and then in good faith, they will go back to work. After 1 year or so, they will go back, they will embark on strike because agreement has not been met. I think we need to be serious. We need to get more serious in this country.
Let's really talk about ASUP and this JSON. Because ASUP, Polytechnic, and a lot of people will say, look, they don't take Polytechnic serious in Nigeria. That ASU is always at the forefront, and anytime they cough, government listen, negotiate and dialogue, there's a tendency to treat the Polytechnic lecturers like second fiddle.
Well, even if they have that tendency, I don't even think government listens to ASU, even now. Because if government listens to ASU, the entire system will not be grounded for over 1 year. So I don't even think this government listens to anybody. So if ASUP is thinking that they want to gain recognition because by going on strike, I don't even think they are going to get that recognition. Because even ASU itself,
ASU went on strike. They are back.
They are back, and they are even planning another strike.
A lecturer friend of mine said they have not been paid for 7 months now.
So Dr. Chris Ngige and Festus Keyamo, they have their hands full.
Very full. And the question is still like, okay, why? I am beginning to think that we enjoy this thing. I'm beginning to think that. I'm beginning to think that officially our government is enjoying this thing. Otherwise,
no sensible government.
Otherwise, no, you think so. Otherwise, why it's like there is an encouragement. For instance, the issue of this JSON now, this. Remember that just last month, Tambuwa, the governor of Sokoto State, led its men to meet the chief of staff to the president and deliver the message of the president to him, as if it is even in their duty to do that. But they still did in any case on this issue of autonomy, financial autonomy and the rest. Yet, nothing happened. Nothing happened. You mentioned the fact that the president signed an executive order. So if the executive order of the president of a nation is not even important, what are we talking about? So as for ASUP, I don't think they are going on strike simply because they want to show their relevance. I think they have genuine reasons to also embark on the strike that they are embarking on, because remember that what they are asking for, they have not been granted. It's talking about accumulated allowances, unpaid, even this their IPPIS is still a problem because the thing is not working well. Salaries of lecturers are being deducted anyhow, and they have complained about this thing, and nothing has been done. Now, do you want them to just keep quiet and say because we are Polytechnic lecturers, let people not think that we are competing with our university lecturers? Yes. So let us keep our grievances to ourselves. And no, they will not do that. I think we should still go back to the same issue of the reason why. Now, I think the executive should tell Nigerians why it does not like obeying court orders.
Thank you.
Why it does not like implementing agreements. Why it loves situations where people will always go on incessant strike and it will continue to negotiate with them. I think sometimes to the night and the rest.
I think the reasons are
they should just tell us those reasons.
I think the reasons are not far-fetched. They can afford to go abroad for medical checkup and treatment. They send their children to school abroad. If their children are in these universities, maybe they will take it serious.
Exactly.
They send that, and of course, they don't obey court orders.
Exactly.
There's a court order on NIN that said extend by 2 months. Government decided to extend by 1 month. You see, they just do this with impunity. Nobody can challenge them. So they don't take anything seriously.
No, maybe after that 1 month, they will announce another
I know
1 month. All right. And finally, the parents of the abducted student of the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization, Kaduna, have vowed to negotiate with the bandits, paying no mind to Governor Nasiru El-Rufai's resolve not to negotiate with abductors, though the government has vowed to prosecute anyone found engaging in negotiation with the bandits. The parents are adamant, saying the state is insensitive to their plight. This back and forth, the governor is saying that we are going to prosecute anybody. But these are parents and saying, look, you don't feel what we feel. We want to open a kind of channel so that we can start negotiating with the bandits.
Let me give you an example of someone that was kidnapped. Is a cleric of a popular church in Nigeria. After his release, I had the privilege of talking to him. We did an interview for him, and he told us something. He said, don't ever believe the police when they tell you that you should not negotiate with kidnappers or bandits or anybody. That if your relatives don't negotiate on your behalf, you will be gone. And he said, don't ever blame anybody that negotiates with these criminals, because you see the way they kill people in your presence. In his own case, he and his wife were kidnapped. At a point, they released the wife so that she could go and get money from wherever for the husband to be released. And the man refused to talk about anything about the kidnappers. He was just grateful to God that he was released. And he said that all the information they gave to the police, nothing came out of it. And that was when he was still there. It was at that point that they realized that they needed to do something special. So back to the case of these parents. They are the ones whose children are not at home. These parents, they still know that Leah Sharibu, after more than 3 years, is still not back home. These parents know.
There's a father that has 2 children.
Yes, among them, one of them even died. One of the parents died, you know. So, yes, so you have 2 of your children in kidnappers.
Very painful.
And this is, you are seeing the governor. And the governor, whatever, I don't blame Governor Rufai saying he's not going to negotiate with kidnappers. But do you know that Governor El-Rufai has also removed his own son from the public school in Kaduna?
With all the show,
with all the razzmatazz that attended the registration of that child. So, and I'm not going to blame El-Rufai for removing his child from that school, because if El-Rufai has if he has a wife that gave birth to that child, I'm sure that woman will tell him that, look, you have to remove my child. You cannot use my child for political stunts. And you kill my son because you want to prove a point politically. Are you telling me that this state is safe? No. So these parents, they see all of that. You now tell them that you are not going to negotiate with the bandits, and you want to punish them. You will punish them if they negotiate. Please, I can tell you that these parents are not going to. So
are you confirming that Governor Nasiru El-Rufai has withdrawn his child?
He has not come out to say that he has not come out to deny that he has not withdrawn his child. As of the time that this report was published, his son had been missing in school since the beginning of the term, and he has not said that he has not removed it.
Nigeria. I have Sheson is calling us from Alabado.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Sheson.
Good evening.
Good evening, Sheson.
Yeah, my regards to the panelists there and our host.
Thank you.
I want to contribute to the discussion that we are having today, and my contribution goes thus. The country, as of today, lacks leadership.
all the problems that we are attesting to today, they are not a problem of today. The strike action by the academic staff or whatever, the insecurity, the economic problem, they are the problems that have been with us for a very long time, that people thought APC government would be able to resolve. But unfortunately, when President Buhari resumed into office, he preferred to jettison all the promises. He agreed to restructure this country. It was part of the campaign activities of APC. But look at what has happened to the party today. It is anarchy everywhere. It's not ready to solve any problem of this country. It's as simple as that. It's like the herdsmen. It's like the herdsmen that are Fulani natives. It's like
thank you, Cheson.
We are reading on the social media.
Cheson, thank you. My producer, do something. It's just, we try as much as possible. We want to, when people start labeling people, yes, but we refrain from calling herdsmen and herdsmen, bandits. So we don't have to use.
Exactly. We don't need to go the way of ethnic profiling.
No, profiling.
Criminals are criminals.
We have Yoruba criminals.
Exactly.
Criminals.
I tend to like Governor El-Rufai's no negotiation policy. Well, but you can do that only when you are strong. You know what I mean? When you are strong, okay.
When you have the advantage.
Exactly. When you have the advantage, you don't have the advantage. And to tell parents not to negotiate. In fact, if you read the press statement of those parents, they said government had even kept them in the dark. Nobody was addressing them, what they were doing. Apart from the fact now that we heard that 5 people had been, 5 of the 39.
Is the federal government synergizing with Kaduna State government to even say, like we saw in Niger State, like a kind of solidarity to just make sure they put hands together to make sure this.
We need all hands on deck. It's not just a Kaduna problem. It's not just a Kaduna problem, it's a general problem. So federal government cannot afford to just be aloof or something like that. So back to what I was saying. I was working with my son, my little boy, and I was just imagining. I was walking around in the neighborhood. It was very free and all of that. In my heart, I just imagined if something should happen to this boy, would I be able to stand it? He was with his dad. He thought. As long as he was with his dad, all his problems, he didn't have any problem in the world. But life is not always like that, you understand? So I just imagined what would be my reaction. Yes, today or so, a family of 5 in Ondo was kidnapped. 9. Father, okay. Was it yesterday or today? Father, mother, and 3
in Ondo State.
In Ondo State, they're based in Abuja. They went to their hometown in Ondo for Easter celebration. They were going. The kidnappers are demanding 10 million ransom from the relatives. Now, imagine the governor of Ondo State saying nobody must negotiate.
All right, I have Abdullahi from Kano.
Hello?
Yes, thank you for joining us, Abdullahi.
Yeah, I want to talk about the abduction in Kaduna. It's got a problem that we must really look at it in twofold. First, if you look at El-Rufai, you realize that what he's doing it might not really doing something out of as if he's not out of compassion. He has compassion for it. But what we are looking at, if you look at what is happening right now, if you continue to negotiate with it, right? I know the parents, of course it's painful, but let us look at what the governor. Let us look at other things. Let us look at other ways within which you could find a way out of it. But if you say we should just, because they abducted the children, we should outrightly pay bandits huge amount for their fees. I think that we are not really we're not doing justice to the government.
Thank you, Abdullahi. So we have to tell people if it's not expedient, very, very, very expedient to travel by road now.
Exactly.
Well, how do you travel?
How do you
travel?
Travel at all?
We don't have so not to travel at all.
Okay, you want to travel from Lagos to Ibadan, for example. You want to go and go by air?
Oh, yeah.
How many people can afford that? You know,
Okay.
You know, Lagos Ibadan Expressway it's not that safe too. It's not that safe.
The truth is, while I am not saying that Governor Rufai should negotiate, I don't support that he should negotiate, but there is a caveat. You mentioned it. Before you can say this, you must be talking from the position of power.
Exactly.
So you have a game plan to release these people
and now deal
through SWAT operation.
Whichever way you think you will, and you now have a way to also deal with the abductors to make sure that they don't come back again to repeat that thing. But if for days now, of course, you may not even, you are not under any obligation to disclose such security measures to the parents. But at the same time, you should know that you need to carry them along.
Yes.
Letting them know that something is being done.
Yes.
I remember when...
not the headline way of saying we prosecute anybody negotiating.
I remember when the pupils of a secondary school in Ekpe.
Yes.
You know, there was a time during Ambode's time, these kidnappers, they kept on coming from wherever. They would kidnap these children, collect money, they go to another school again. So it became a pattern. So when they kidnapped the last batch of students, the Lagos State government refused to give them money or negotiate with them. In fact, those children spent many days. But I was in touch because one of a relative's child was also involved. So I kept on speaking with the Lagos State government, and they kept on saying that they were on top of the situation, that they didn't want to encourage ransom payments. And lo and behold, they brought all those children back safe. Parents will love that. Nobody wants to spend their money.
There's a line of action.
There is a line of action.
If I'm not negotiating, bring them back.
Bring them back. But as it is, it's not enough to say you are not negotiating and keeping quiet.
Do something to bring them down.
Exactly.
Yes.
Paul Dada, thank you for your contribution today. Okay. Thank you. And Olabisi Deji Folu today. Thank you for your contribution. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. Don't forget to join us every Sunday for Journalist Hangout Special. That's between 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozugbakun. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.